All right, welcome back to the Content Marketing Playbook. It's your host, Josh Culler with Culler Media. And on today's episode, we're going to be talking about content collaboration and how this might be your next best marketing strategy or content marketing strategy as a whole. Now, this is something that you can use in marketing as a whole, but I'm going to be talking about how to use it with actual content marketing and how collaboration can actually significantly improve your reach and get you onto other platforms with other people that are relevant to your target demographic and who you're going after. But before we get into it, if you haven't already, make sure you have subscribed to the Content Marketing Playbook. Whatever podcast platform you are on and you listen to podcasts on, head over to there and search the Content Marketing Playbook and then subscribe. If you're on Apple Podcasts, do me a favor after this show, make sure you head back over to the homepage for this show. Leave a 5-star review and your feedback. I would much appreciate that. And then if you have any questions, anything that is about this topic in general, or if you have a topic that you want to discuss, or maybe it's something that you want me to cover here, any questions about content marketing as a whole, reach out to me, josh@colormedia.com. I've had quite a few people reach out to me, so I appreciate that in the first place, and thank you for doing that if you have already. But josh@colormedia.com is my email address, and you can ask me whatever you want on there. So let's go ahead and get into today's topic. I'm excited about this because this is something I've been diving into a lot recently. I've actually been doing this for a very long time, and I think that it's extremely underrated and undervalued, but it's also something that a lot of people don't talk about, but a lot of people actually do it, which is collaborating with other people through your content marketing. So I'm going to give you a rundown, just like I always do, of what this actually is, why it's important, and then let's get some strategic strategies on how to actually implement and execute on this. So the first thing is, what is the collaboration? And basically what it is you're collaborating with other influencers, other people that have audiences that are relevant to your target demographic. You're collaborating with them, whether you're getting on their platforms or you're getting them on your platforms. So that could be podcasts, that could be articles, that could be commercials, that could be just about any kind of medium that you do in regular content marketing. You can do this through that. So basically you're getting an influencer onto your platform or vice versa to collaborate with them. And it's the same thing as like having a guest on your show. So I've got my other podcast, which is called the REI Marketing Weekly. And this is my form of collaborating in content, which is I get other people on my show to interview them. And then as soon as we're done, I tag them in the post. I have them share it with their audience as well. And I'm dipping into their network. And that's the biggest benefit for this is, why do this is because you're dipping into the audiences of that person you're collaborating with. You're dipping into that and you're dipping into their network, dipping into those people that are relevant to your target demographic. And that's why it's extremely important, whatever collaboration, whatever form of collaboration you do with the content, this is why it's so important to make sure that it's relevant to your target demographic too. And that's whether you're on their platform or they're on yours. Say, for instance, with my REI Marketing Weekly podcast, if I get somebody that has a cake shop on the show, they're not going to be able to really provide much value to my target demographic because it's not relevant. Even if it's, I can't remember the guy's name, but Cake Boss, from the show Cake Boss on the Food Network. Like even if I get that guy on the show, and chances are there might be some people that watch his show, but also like invest in real estate. Chances are that's not exactly what I'm looking for. Like I'm not going to get a very big reach with that because his target demographic is not the same as mine and it's not relevant. His industry, the services that he provides are not the same as what the people that I need to get on the show. So you have to make sure it's relevant. And like I said, both ways. But the biggest thing is you're dipping into those networks, the audiences that you may have a little bit of establishment in, but you're reaching those people that you don't have established authority with, and you're bringing them into your sphere. And the way you do that is through all the content that you put out. So whenever I do a podcast, like I said, I post it on Facebook and I tag the person that is on Facebook and tag them with their audience. I ask them to share it. I ask them to share it in an email form or post it on their Facebook. And then that brings a lot of traction my way and a lot of attention to me, which is marketing as a whole, content marketing as a whole, is to bring attention your way. So like I said, you got to make sure that they're relevant make sure that you're providing value both ways. And I'll talk about that here in just a second. But here's some really good examples of content collaboration that's happened in the past that I could talk about. And maybe this will help click and actually give you some ideas on what you could do with your content collaboration. I'm going to take a drink just real quick. Listen, I've been collaborating with content all morning. So I've had one person on my show, and then I was on somebody else's show. So like I collaborate with content all the time. So I'll give you some very contextual examples. And obviously this isn't specific to the real estate investing industry. This is just about anything. But from a marketing perspective, content feeds everything in marketing. And so one of the examples I like to use is Sega. So I've been watching this show. I binged on it. I've already finished all the seasons, so I'm done with it. It's called High Score. It's on Netflix. It's a great show about how video games really came to fruition. They give you the background of Nintendo, how they got started, and really how Atari got started, which Atari really kicked off the video game industry. And then how Nintendo got started, Sega got started, and they don't really go into PlayStation or Xbox more much. So I think it's more of the retro gaming. But one of the things that was very interesting to me was how when Sega came into the picture, they knew right off the bat they had to, Nintendo was their competitor, right? Like without even a question. Nintendo got started even before Sega, so they were already behind. So they had to figure out, how are we going to do this? And one of the things they decided was, well, let's dip into a target demographic that Nintendo really doesn't go after. So back in those days, Nintendo was going after the children. So they were like really marketing hard. Like you just take, for instance, Mario, this plumber who's like kind of a fat, chubby plumber that's, bouncing around in colorful maps and that kind of thing. He's got Yoshi, a green, like friendly, cute looking dinosaur. And so like the demographic they were going after was very much like going towards children and the younger demographic, and not really even the teenagers at all. So Sega decided, well, let's go after them. So they went after the teenagers and the older demographic. And one of the ways they knew how to do that was, well, we got to go into the sports industry, which sports were really big. At that time, they were just becoming massive. And American football was by far the biggest sports, the biggest sport in the entire country. And so they decided, like, who are we going to go after in football to get on our platform and help us promote this thing? So they decided, well, we're going to do a football game. We're actually going to do a football video game, which had never been done before. So they built that out, but they had to decide who we're going to get to push this. So story is John Madden. So they go after John Madden, who at that point was probably the biggest sportscaster in the entire world. He's announcing all the football games, and football is huge. He had already won a Super Bowl with the Oakland Raiders and that kind of thing. So he had a really, really strong audience in American football, and everybody loved John Madden that watched football. They loved hearing him announce, and he was on all kinds of commercials, busting through walls and saying boom and like all this stuff. Like there was just a lot of campaigns that had John Madden in it. And so Sega decided, we're going to do a football game. So we're going to get John Madden, the sportscaster in football, to be basically the driver for this game. And essentially you have what's today Madden, and then add the year Madden 2019 and Madden 2020. And that's how it got started. So they got John Madden to be the face of this football game. And so the first game was called John Madden Football, and that was on Sega. And that's how Sega was able to dip into that target demographic and say, hey, we're going to go after you, and we're going to give you a sports game that you're going to absolutely love. And they used John Madden and collaborated with him in order to drive it. So chances are, if they got even somebody else at all, like we don't know the alternative. Like if they got Bo Jackson to be on the face of the actual game, like who knows where that would have gone? We may not even have had still a football game. So Madden, though, has been doing this for a long time, and he had gone all the way until he passed away and that kind of thing. And so like that's a really big deal, and how they were able to collaborate and get John Madden on their platform to push the game and ultimately become this massive success. And that's how they did it. So they collaborated with this influencer that had a huge audience and brought him on the platform. So that's one way. Another way is Forbes. So you take basically any magazine at all. The way magazines survive is through content from influencers. You look at like Vogue or Entrepreneur magazine or Forbes. Like all the content that's on the platform is collaboration with other influencers. And so what happens is if, say for instance, I have a few clients that they actually are on the real estate council for Forbes and they write articles for Forbes. When Forbes reaches out to them and says, hey, we need another article for the month, they'll write the article, they put it on Forbes platform, but they're going to push it too. So they're going to take that article they put on Forbes, they're going to link it to their social media and push it out in their marketing and say, hey, go to Forbes and read the article that I wrote for them. And so that's how Forbes is able to get collaboration through other influencers and build their platform. And that's every other magazine company. You take Entrepreneur Magazine, like whoever's on the front-facing cover, if Jeff Bezos is on the cover of that magazine, chances are he's handing that out to some of his friends and family, right? And that's how people and fans of Jeff Bezos are like, hey, I love Jeff Bezos, so let me check out this magazine. And to be honest with you, this is the way I came across Entrepreneur Magazine. Was I was hit with an ad because I'm a huge fan of Elon Musk, and he happened to be on one of the covers of Entrepreneur Magazine. And I was like, love Elon, so let me check out this magazine. And it brought me a lot of value, and I liked it a lot. So then I subscribed, and I'm still getting the magazines today. And that's how they do it. A really funny one, if you're not a fan of The Office, the show The Office, you may not understand this one, but Kevin Malone, right? So big Kevin, and I don't know his real name in real life, but Kevin Malone, there's that episode where he has the huge pot of chili, and he's walking in the office, spills it everywhere, and then he like freaks out and everything. And that's like a very iconic time and a very iconic scene in the show of The Office. Now, what happened was, many years later, finally a baked beans commercial came out with Kevin on it. So Bush's was ingenious with this and says, and this is one of my favorite marketing campaigns of all time. So Bush's gets Kevin on the show, and Kevin literally like making fun of himself on the actual commercial and, talking about baked beans and how he's like doing his family recipe and all that. So it really relates to fans of The Office. And so that's really what happened. And like, it's a great way to do it because Bush's is tapping into fans of Kevin Malone and fans of The Office, because normally if you're a fan of The Office, you like Kevin Malone because he's hilarious. He's just this like drudgy dude. But that's what happened. And that's how they collaborated through content. Even though these are commercials, it's still content in how they're collaborating. So the next thing is, being on a podcast. So like if I have a podcast and I have guests and I'm interviewing people, that's how I'm doing it. And something that's a really cool idea, content collaboration wise, and you can do this with any medium, right? So you can do this, like I already mentioned, Forbes with articles. You can do this through video content, through social media postings, through podcasts. Like there's basically any kind of content you put out, you can do collaborations with people. And so what I'm doing right now, in the process of finishing up and wrapping up, is I have a book coming out called the REI Marketing Book. And literally what it is I have my show and I took the first 50 episodes. I'm going to do this every year. So this is, version 2020. So I had the first 50 episodes. I got them transcribed. Then I got them cleaned up by an actual writer, put it into a book format. And what's going to happen is once that book's ready to go, the first wave of the books are going to go to every single person that is included inside of that book. So I've got 50 real estate investors with most of them got pretty large audiences. I'm going to send them the book, ask them to take a selfie with it, post it, tag me up, and then push people. I'm going to give them an affiliate link and push people to purchase the book and get into my funnel. And so this is just a big master plan of why I started the podcast in the first place, was to get these episodes transcribed, create a book out of it. That's my lead hook, my lead magnet, to get people into my funnel so I can market to them for rei.video or to Color Media, my services that way. And so that's the ascension of it. That's inception marketing, right? But it all starts with collaborating with these people, because when I send the book to Steve Trang or when I send the book to Mike Hambright, they're going to post it, and their target demographic is my target demographic. They go after real estate investors. And so they're going to post that, and anybody that's not already in my audience and network, they're going to see that and then go after it because Mike posted about it. So that's a master plan that I'm working on, but that just shows you the possibilities of what you could do with collaborating through content. So wrapping this up, make sure, number one, make sure that you're providing value. So provide value on both ends, and not just you, but make sure that the other person's providing value as well. You don't ever want to have somebody I've actually kicked somebody off my show before because all they wanted to do was pitch and sell. And I told them, look, I just don't do that on the show. And I'm not going to continue the show if you're going to, not knock it off. And they didn't. And so I just said, hey, look, I'm just going to have to pull the plug. This isn't working out. So I never published that episode. And that's the truth in it, because they were trying to get on my platform just to sell to my audience and not provide any value. Like literally everything that was coming out of their mouth was sell. So I had to make sure that value is being provided to my audience. And so that's the thing I want to get across, is make sure that value is being presented both sides. So that example I gave you with John Madden was, like Sega provided value to John Madden, probably in endorsements, right? So I assume John Madden got some really good endorsements through that football game that, they came out with. And so John Madden gets value out of that, but then also Sega gets massive value because they have this rock star of an influencer, John Madden, on their actual video game. So value needs to be exchanged, and a lot of times it's not going to be equal value, but just as long as you're communicating with those collaborators, that's the important thing. And then make sure that you are tagging. If you have content that you're collaborating with people, I see this a lot where I've been on podcasts before and I never get tagged. The episode goes out, I never get tagged on Facebook. I never get an email saying, hey, the episode's gone out. Share this with your audience. Make sure that you're doing that. If you collaborate with somebody on content marketing, whether it is a podcast, a video, a book, or anything, make sure to get them what they need. You give them the utilities to be able to share it to their audience, so that they can share it around, and then make sure you're doing the same thing for other people as well. Because even if you share something, you could still be tapping into their market or their target demographic. So make sure you do that. Share, push it around. Make sure that you push people. So if you do have a podcast, push people to share your podcast if you have them on as an interview. So that's what I got for you guys today. Hopefully that brought you some value, made sense. But collaboration, this is probably one of the best ways to expand your target demographic, dip into those people who you have not yet reached through relevant influencers, through relevant content marketing that you could get into with other people and tap into their target demographic, their audience. So that's the trick. That's how you do it. That's how you expand it in a quicker way without having to spend money and ad dollars to reach people. So that's what I got for you guys today. Hopefully that brought you value. And if it did, make sure you give the podcast a subscribe if you haven't already. If you're on Apple Podcasts, do me a huge favor. Head over to the homepage, leave a 5-star review with your feedback. I would much appreciate that. And then also, if you have any questions, make sure to reach out to me. josh@colormedia.com is my email address. And then you can always check out all the things that I've got going on at colormedia.com. Got a couple podcasts. I've got a bunch of different content that I put out. Make sure to give me a follow on social media. Instagram and Facebook is where I'm pushing out a lot of stuff. And then obviously YouTube. If you're watching the video, I'm on YouTube. So that's what I got for you guys. Thank you for joining in and listening today, and I'll catch you on the next one. See you later.